So let's begin. Hi everyone, I hope you had a great weekend and we have our next QMS training. And today we'll discuss about quality assurance processes. Specifically, we'll discuss about quality assurance processes during production, planning and implementation, as well as control of non-conformancy and CAPA process. So our journey begins when we receive the raw materials. Those materials should pass several tests before we can start the production process. First of all, the incoming inspection we mentioned in the previous training, where we check it against purchase order and package damage. Then those materials moved into production or engineering area for more detailed inspection, or it's called first article inspection. Those parts or a sample of those parts should be inspected and only then accepted in our inventory system. So the results of the inspections are indicated in this form, incoming quality assurance form, and you can find it in our Bell QMS site. So before we start with production, we need to make sure the production area is ready and clean from previous production work. That means no labels or parts from previous units are on the table. That will prevent mix-ups between units and unnecessary errors. Also, you need to make sure that you prepared all necessary parts for your assembly. And you need to make sure the equipment you plan to use is functional and calibrated. And of course, you need to prepare all necessary documentation you might need for the process, and we'll discuss about this documentation in a little bit. So this is production general workflow. When we start with preparing materials in accordance with BOM and finishing with shipping of the finished device to the customer. Every step of this process is supposed to be monitored and evaluated to ensure compliance with acceptance criteria. So what is it, acceptance criteria, and how we determine those? In order to be assured that a device is fit for intended use, we should decide which characteristics of a device to inspect and to what detail of extent inspect for conformance with the device specifications. This decision is typically based on the intended use, intended user, nature of the device and its components, intrinsic safety of the device, reliability of the device, overall process capability of the manufacturing operation, characteristic or test inspection, or test and inspection equipment and procedures, and performance margin of the device compared to the device specifications. So determined acceptance criteria are translated to written and approved testing and assembly procedures and instructions. Those procedures and instructions shall be carefully written and shall cover all appropriate points in the device acceptance specifications in order to improve communication and reduce errors. Those procedures should be located in the DMR folder. As a reminder, DMR folder contains the recipe of the device we produce. So this is the template for the manufacturing and test instructions that we created, and it should include the processes, test or assembly instructions. So for example, this is the procedures instruction that team is working on. It's for WISP dock hardware assembly. Some of you already saw this document. It's in a draft stage, as you can see. But when it will be done, it will be approved and in DMR folder. The assembly process is monitored process. production operator should document and evaluate every step of the process, where every step should have a reference to the specific assembly instruction that we mentioned before and its acceptance status. This process is the assurance that the production was done properly. In case were discovered problems with procedures and instruction, they should be mentioned, fixed, and reapproved before we start the next production unit. At the end of the process, each production unit should receive specific serial number. This one is done in accordance with part and serial numbering standard operating procedure. This document that you see now, the traveler, should be authorized by quality assurance person and filed in the DHR folder of this unit. As you remember, the DHR folder contains the records of each unit or tests. Acceptance status is a very important term in production process, and it indicates the conformance or non-conformance to acceptance criteria. Acceptance status can be accepted or passed or conforming, failed or non-conforming, or not evaluated yet. So the production is done and we have a finished device. So what do we need to do now? We need to make sure that planned and documented activities have been completed. We need to make sure that the finished unit meets acceptance criteria we determined in planning stage. In other words, the production was done in accordance with the procedures and instructions that we created. And of course, the acceptance status is passed in all determined tests. Finished devices should be held in quarantine area until released. And finished devices release records are authorized, dated, and located in the DHR folder. So we have a deviation from specifications, a standard or an expectation, or in other words, non-conformancy. Non-conformancy means acceptance status failed. We have several situations. We received the raw material and it failed our inspections, or the failure occurred during assembly or inspection process, or the final product we assembled failed the final inspection. What to do now? So we received the product, as I said, from the vendor, and it failed our inspections. First of all, production team needs to know how to identify product as non-conforming. They need to document the non-conformancy. There is a need to evaluate the non-conformancy. We need to segregate it, and of course, make decision regarding the disposal. As I mentioned before, non-conforming product should be segregated. How do we do it? We can put red stickers directly on non-conforming parts and assemblies, and we need to quarantine the non-conforming parts in designated locations. So if there is a problem with the supplied material, the supplier must be informed. If the discrepancy is minor, we should send supplier notification notice. If the discrepancy is major, we should send SCAR, Supplier Corrective Action Request. So after we segregated the non-conforming product, the disposition of this product should be determined. In case of the major problem, the review board that includes engineering, production, and quality authorities decides of the disposition of the non-conforming product. The review board should have the knowledge to determine suitability for use of non-conforming product. The disposition of the non-conforming product can be rejection of the material, return to vendor, or use as it is, or concession. In that case, we need to justify this decision. We have an approved raw materials and we started with production in accordance with the procedures and instruction we determined and approved. And problem identified during this stage. Once again, we need to segregate the sub-assembly or finished device or assembly, we use the same techniques as with raw materials, red labels and designated areas. We should analyze the process, procedures, work instructions, equipment to identify the cause of non-conformancy. The results of this investigation shall be identified, corrected, and documented. If the non-conformance occurred during this step, we will try to evaluate the problem, come up with some solution, and redo the step once again. Alternatively, we might decide that we leave it as it is and use it differently, for example, for marketing purposes. The non-conformance report will include the justification of such decision. Once again, review board should decide the resolution steps. This is non-conformance report we have in place, where we document the description of the non-conformancy, the evaluation of the problem, and our plans what to do next. So when several non-conformance investigation results identify the deficiency, such as failed component or a design flaw, and this deficiency may continue to another product unit, we need to implement corrective and preventive action. So what is corrective and preventive process or CAPA process? We need to analyze quality problem data. The purpose of this analysis is to identify existing and potential causes of nonconformity. We need to investigate the cause of nonconformity relating to product, process, or qualities. Identify the action or actions needed to correct and prevent the occurrence of this problem. We need to verify or validate the corrective and preventive action to ensure that such action is effective and doesn't adversely affect the finished device. We need to implement and record changes in methods and procedures needed to correct and prevent identified problem. We need to ensure that information related to quality problem or non-conforming products is disseminated to those directly responsible for assuring the quality of such product or the prevention of such problems. And all those activities and the results should be documented. So, as a summary, quality assurance processes, production planning control or non-conformance products and CAPA process, they provide material and acceptance activities essential for producing quality products. The results of this production and quality assurance processes help us meet or exceed customer needs and expectations. So now, if you have some questions. So no questions?
I had a question about the traveler. Does that need to be filled out each time a product is assembled?
Yes.
Okay. And it'll be customized for each product, correct?
Yes. Something else?
Thanks, Dana. Just to go over this, a lot of things. Even if you get 20%, as Dana said, I think that's good enough. I think these are all probably needs a lot of retraining and practical use.
Exactly.
And experience as well. So don't worry if you did not get most of this information.
Sure. As I said, it will be recorded and I'll send you the link for this recording. And as always, you can send me an email, question, whatever you have in mind. I'll be happy to answer. Okay, so I'm sending you the training record to sign. as well as links to all the documents I mentioned. You'll receive it today. And have a great day.
Thanks, Dana. You too. Bye.
Thank you, Dana.
Thank you. Bye-bye.